Hi guys, you're welcome to our YouTube channel. So if you're a returning subscriber, please do well to enjoy yourself. But if you're a first timer, please subscribe to this YouTube channel to get more updates. Now let's get into the story. This movie begins with an opening scene with a man in his study looking at a biography when his son walks in with a football, and then the son went to meet him and started speaking to him. The man decided that he was going to tell him a story of a man, a very great man. This story is the story of Pastor Enoch Adejare, the set man over the Redeemed Christian Church of God worldwide. This movie is titled Enoch. Sit tight and let's get into it. The first scene shows the village in Ilesha, Osun State in Nigeria, and it showed the family of Pastor Enoch Adeboye. He was popularly called Adejare when he was little. The father was sharing with his children that he has good news for them, and they were all eager to hear what the man had for them. Both the kids and the wives, everybody was excited. He brought out an umbrella and showed them, and they were also joyous because an umbrella was a rare item in those days, especially in that part of Nigeria. They were all happy, and this umbrella looked so beautiful. Everybody wanted to touch it at once. But in order to get some order to the situation, he decided that each person will hold the umbrella and dance with it while passing it on to the next person, and that's how everyone is going to partake in that ritual of touching the umbrella. Such a funny scene, I know, but these are the luxuries that those people of old enjoyed, and these are the things that we even take for granted now. Having an umbrella in their household was like Christmas because everybody was dancing and celebrating and thanking God for the great thing He has done in the Adeboye family. Such funny scene. But let's move on from here to see what happened next. The next scene showed Adejare watching a scholar come back from school, and his family, friends, and well-wishers were dancing and welcoming him. Adejare yearned to go to school, but it wasn't possible because his parents by then did not believe in education for him. He went home, met his mom, and told her that he wanted to go to school. She was shocked because she wondered what must have come over this boy. The next thing that followed her shock was concern, because she knew that she did not have the money to pay his tuition through school. In fact, she told him that the only money she had was money to get him some Christmas clothes. But Adejare would not have it. He wanted to go to school. He lay there for days without eating or drinking. All he wanted to go to school. I've never seen such passion in a young individual like this before. This young boy, despite his mother begging him many times, he refused and said he needed to go to school. Confused, she decided to go and meet her husband and tell her about the situation at hand, that their son was about to lose his life, all because he wanted to go to school. And seeing that she did not have that kind of money for that luxury, she met her husband and discussed with him. The man carefully listened to her and saw how Adejare was so devoted and passionate about education. He decided to sell his beloved ram just to raise money for Adejare's tuition. After seeing how the boy really wanted to go to school, the mother was so grateful. She thanked her husband again and again and again. They were so happy because they knew in a way that if Adejare was passionate about school like this, he was definitely going to have a bright future, and Adejare did not fail to do that. On the day of his departure, it was such an emotional scene as the mother was seen comforting him, crying and praying for him, while the father and sisters were watching too. bidding him farewell. Adejare was very close to his mom, and he showed the motherly love and her concern towards him as an individual. Finally, he left for Elisha Grammar School, where he completed his primary and secondary education. Before I become so emotional, I hope you're enjoying this movie. And before we continue, let me just say a disclaimer. This movie is originally produced by the Mount Zion Film Production, and this recap does in no way replace the original movie. It's just a briefing for you to have a feel of what this movie is. Also, ensure to subscribe to this YouTube channel. Just subscribe to get more updates like this. Thank you. Now let's continue. Adejare went to Elisha Grammar School. He had no shoes. That's so sad. But the young man was determined to face his studies squarely and come out top of his class. There was a time where his teacher even challenged him in class to answer a question because he was absent-minded, but Adejare proved everybody wrong. He got all the answers correctly because he was so dedicated to his studies, and God had blessed him with wisdom. The next scene shows the principal calling Adejare to his office. Unfortunately, there was some sad news from home as Adejare lost his father to a brief illness. This was so sad because his father was the only one sponsoring him in his education, and things looked as if Adejare was going to drop out of school. After they buried his father and the mourning period was over, Adejare and his headmaster went back to school. The headmaster summoned him and told him that he had a proposition for him if he was going to continue with his schooling, only that he had to pay the fees at the end of his schooling when he was able to secure a job. Adejare agreed and signed the form because he was definitely willing to pay the price for education. When he was about to graduate from secondary school, he went to see his uncle to tell him how he did not have shoes throughout school and he needed a pair of shoes for his graduation day because he came out best in all his subjects. His uncle obliged and gave him a pair of shoes. During the graduation, Adejare came out best in all subjects and he was given so many awards. His mother was elated because this boy had proven beyond doubt that your background and experiences cannot limit who you can become in the future. Fast forward to a few years later, a grown-up Adejare was seen chilling with his buddies in the university, where he seemed to be a very good student and many ladies were frolicking around him because he was extremely gifted in mathematics. The friends mocked him and told him how he could make good use of this his gift, but Adejare did not take them really seriously. He just listened and was grateful for the kind of gift that God had given him, and he was going to use it only to God's glory, and that was final. Enoch decided to visit his friend and colleague, and then his sister came in and Enoch was smitten by her. He probably had not seen such a beautiful, homely and comely lady before, and when he saw her, the baby in his womb basically leapt for joy because he could not stop staring. And even after the exchange handshakes, he did not even want to let go of this damsel. He had found something precious and rare, and he asked her where she was from, what she was doing at the moment, and she told him, and the brother was the one that had to even break them off. It was such a funny scene, but this was the beginning of the love story. After some time, Enoch came over to her house to invite her for his birthday party. He came all dressed up, most likely to impress Foluke, as she is known as. He came and told her that he would like her to come for his birthday party. She told him she would try her best to be there. She was not a party person of some sort. He kept on trying to persuade her, but she was adamant and kept saying that what could she get for him as a gift. He then told her that all he needed was her presence. They had a nice time and he left. The next scene shows Enoch at his party, but the party was over and he was looking quite sad, probably because who expected to come did not come. His friends were helping him open gifts of other ladies that were so interested in him, but the only gifts that excited him was one from Fulu. By the time Enoch had made up his mind that he wanted to marry this lady, he walked straight to her house, dressed all glammed up, and told her that he wanted to marry her. Foluke was shocked because she probably did not expect it from Mr. Adeboye. But there was nothing that God could not do, is it not? He told her that he wanted to be with her and she was the only one that his heart yearned for. She then told him that she had to seek her family's consent for this before she moves on with him. She proceeded to inform her dad about his proposal, and the father asked her certain questions that she knew about Mr. Adeboye and why she wanted to marry him. The answers that she gave were all satisfactory. The father decided that she could bring Mr. Adeboye to the house and he could see who stole his daughter's heart. When Enoch got there, man was scared and jittery. It was funny because he was so afraid of her father and he had not done such a thing before. He was confused at what to do and what not to do. He even prostrated before the father got in, and this got Foluke cracked up. She told him to stand up. The father really did not even have any problems at all. He just greeted Mr. Adeboye and they seemed to have a nice time together. Favor was definitely in the room or around Mr. Adeboye's corner. Shortly after that, they got married in the presence of God, well-wishers, and family. They were so excited about this new phase of their lives and they were blessed in holy matrimony. Everyone was happy, the couple was excited, the church was excited, family was excited, his friends too, they were excited about this grace feat and they were optimistic about their marriage. A few years later, reality set in as Enoch was seen visiting a herbalist where he was complaining about the numerous problems that he was facing in his family. He came with his new car to secure the car so that he was not going to be involved in an accident. The Baba told him that anything was possible as long as he appeased the gods. He also told the Baba how his daughter was always falling sick and it was giving his wife much concerns because she was the one who cared for the children majorly. The Baba considered all that Enoch had said and decided to give him some charms to place it in his car when he goes home. He placed the charms where the Baba told him to place them, and then he decided to enter his car and drive home. You will not believe that few minutes after he started driving, he encountered an accident. This is funny because he met his friend that introduced him to the herbalist and told him his displeasure, how the herbalist's charm did not work. The friend decided to introduce him to another higher herbalist for protection and more security. Enoch was humbled at that thought and decided to give this second herbalist a trial. After all, what did he stand to lose? When he met this second Baba, the Baba told him that his case was a small case. All he needed to do was to purchase a goat from the village market. The only condition would be that he would walk the distance wherever he got the goat from to the Baba's place as sacrifice. Enoch did this thing despite being laughed and mocked in the streets of the market. He knew what he was looking for and he decided that he was going to go through anything to get it. When he got to the Baba's house, he saw the Baba sick and in bed he had encountered an accident. Now he knew that nobody could save him if not God. He met his uncle, who advised him and told him he thinks it's high time he goes to a church because his matter is beyond mere physical. Fortunately, this church happens to be the Redeemed Christian Church of God. The next service day, he and his wife were seen entering the church while the pastor was looking at them from the pulpit. By the time it was time for the sermon, the man of God spoke the heart of God to them, and he admonished the people and told them how it was important for everyone to live a righteous life, and God loves them very much. At the end of the message, they gave their life to Christ, received Jesus, and were welcomed into the family of God. That was the beginning of Enoch's freedom for whatsoever spiritual strongholds that was having him captive.
The spiritual leader often came around to his house to visit he and his wife and have fellowship with them. He usually sat down to teach Enoch the word of God and to show him and expose to him crucial things in scriptures and how God works with us as human beings. Enoch usually listened attentively and learned a lot of things. This led to a constant fire in his heart and a building up of faith in this young man, a burning passion for God, souls, and people. This led to the forming of the man that Enoch Adeboye is today. There was a certain period where there was a great need in the church, and the members began to pray earnestly to God for answers. The instruction came that every one of them was willing to make this possible should empty their accounts, their savings especially, and bring it to the work of God so that the building of the church will be completed. Enoch and his wife went back home and decided to close their savings account, taking out everything they had saved all the while, and they brought it to the church of God as an offering. Funny enough, it was just Pastor Enoch and his wife that had brought the sacrifice. Every other person did not have the courage to do that. The senior pastor commended them for their bravery and thanked them for being obedient to God's instruction, despite how ambiguous and vague the instruction looked. He prayed for them and blessed them tremendously.
Shortly after that, Enoch was disturbed in himself because he had heard that the church syndicate were going to appoint him as a pastor. He didn't want that because he just wanted to serve God as a member and move on with his life. But it seems God had other plans. He called his wife's attention and told them to pray against this because he believed it was not the will of God. But the wife insisted, telling him that what if this was the will of God for him and their family's life? But Enoch would not have it. He believed strongly that God did not want him to be a pastor because there were so many things at stake. They held hands and prayed together regardless and waited for the outcome of this brief meeting. Despite Enoch's prayers, the next time they went to church, he was called upon and appointed a pastor in the Redeemed Christian Church of God. His legs felt too heavy to carry him to the altar, but he went regardless because he could not refuse the opposition that God was offering him. Baba prayed for him and made declarations over his life. That was the beginning of the journey of greatness. He was anointed and blessed for greater works than what he was doing. It was the beginning of a great story of a young man that we hear all over the world, from nation to nation, country to country, even kingdom to kingdom. After that ordination, Enoch and Baba seemed to become very close. Enoch told him about his fears, insecurities, and how he had felt that he was inadequate for the job.
Baba kept encouraging him and told him that it was the Lord that called him, and the same Lord who has called him into this work is able to qualify him, because God is not interested in the people that are qualified. Enoch works closely with Baba, even as an interpreter in the church, and that was how their relationship grew from strength to strength to strength to strength. Baba called him secretly in a meeting of the elders and told them that he needed to pray for Enoch. They were going to go on a secret prayer meeting in Kenneth Hagin camp, and an impartation was going to be made. This impartation was so fireful, it was so hot and so great that Enoch was imparted with a spirit of greatness that lasted him throughout many generations. The prayer was so hot that it was as if there was an earthquake in the vicinity, that even somebody had to come and knock the door and ask if there was a high-powered machine being used in the room. However, that was just the power of prayers. By the time they got back from the camp meeting, they were so happy, and they had to hold a meeting to tell about the success of that meeting and the great thing that God has done in their lives. Right there, Enoch received news that his mom was sick. She was not talking, not eating, not standing up. Enoch was disappointed. He traveled home to see her and check things out for himself. His mother could not even welcome him when she heard his voice. He was so sad and he was moved to tears. He told her that he couldn't even stay long because he needed to go and do the work of God. Even though he loved her, he loved Jesus more, and his passion for souls could not keep him in that village there. Enoch decided to go and do the work of God. Shortly after that, he heard that his mother was hale and healthy again. He quickly went home, and the mother was so happy to see him. He quickly reminisced of how she held him so tightly the last time they were together. It was indeed a miracle, and it was an obvious reason that serving God pays when you put him first, when you seek the kingdom of God first and his righteousness. Every other thing will indeed be added unto you. Shortly after that, Baba fell ill and he was sick and could not stand up from his bed. The elders of the church were praying earnestly about him, praying for his restoration, but Baba was not disturbed. He personally felt like his time had come. He was just waiting for a short while before he ascended into heaven. His wife could also sense his departure. She waited while Enoch's wife came to see her all the way from Ilorin. Even though Enoch could not make it, his wife came to represent the family. She had wanted to see Baba because she heard that the state of his health was actually a critical one. She decided to go in with Mama and go and see Baba and his health. After she went in to greet him, Baba greeted her well and asked after Enoch. She told him that he was fine. Baba then could not wait any longer. He told her and the wife that he was about to leave and his time had come. Just after she had just arranged his legs in a proper manner, Baba departed from there. This was indeed a great loss, and Enoch could not think of a way out of it. He was so burdened. He was so sad. The burial was arranged in the church and all the congregation was there. They were all sad, although they were joyful, knowing that Baba was now in a better place, but it didn't stop them from mourning a great icon. The congregation were crying. People were mourning. They were going to miss this saint, even though he had gone to heaven to rest. The church syndicate needed to urgently appoint who was going to take over from Baba, and they appointed Enoch Adeboye. But some of the other pastors, they decided they would not have it because they felt cheated. Maybe why would Enoch, who had just come a few years ago and now he was the one that was going to be appointed leader? No, they refused, and some even walked out of the meeting because they felt like it was not possible and they were cheated. This was the height of it. Enoch sat there. He knew that his strength was little, but he trusted God. He went seriously into intense and rigorous prayers, trusting God
for the strength for this new phase of his life and destiny. Just when he was about to be discouraged, his wife was there, helping him, encouraging him, and reminding him of the great promises of God. That is why it is a good thing to actually marry the will of God for your life, or else you will be pushed out of the will of God and there will be nobody to encourage you back into alignment with God. She encouraged him that they were going to stay strong and steadfast in fulfilling God's will over their lives, generation, and destiny, despite what it was going to take. Baba had left a farewell message to Enoch Adeboye. He told him that the Lord was with him, and when he saw him first in that church that day, he knew that there was greatness upon him. He prayed for Pastor Enoch Adejare Adeboye, blessing him and anointing him, telling him that he was meant for influence, he was meant to be at the top, and that the Lord will keep him, the Lord will sustain him, and everything that he lays his hand to do was going to prosper. This is a true story of an icon. Pastor Enoch Adejare Adeboye is a man that has been held by God over decades and decades of service and dedication to God. The man finally finished the story to his son, and he told him that God lifts a man out of the lowest place of the earth and he sets him upon a hill. Truly, there is no end to what God can do in a man's life. Finally, we've come to the end of this movie. Please do well to subscribe to this channel to receive updates and more movie recap notifications. Until next time.